How's it going, everybody? Thank you very much. I always appreciate you watching. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. In an effort to talk about more animated movies on this channel, I thought, why not talk about one of my all-time favorites? Not just one of my favorite superhero movies, but one of my favorite movies of all time in general. From 1993, from director Eric Radomski and Bruce Timm, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, based from the animated series that ran from like 92 to 97. This is a movie that I went to go see in theaters with my dad. I was really excited. I was an avid watcher of the animated series, Batman, the animated series that is. I saw the first episode. I never missed an episode. They used to air at night, like at 8 p.m., and then they would air them after school, and then they were Saturday morning cartoons. But I've always been a fan, and maybe the truest incarnation of Batman, the best representation of Gotham City and the Rogues Gallery. And this movie is a lot of fun. It's very well made. It has a good story. It has characters that we know from the show. You have Bullock, played by Robert Costanzo, coming back to do that voice. You have the great Mark Hamill reprising his role of the Joker from the animated series, which he nailed in every single episode. And his incarnation of the Joker might be the truest, the best, my personal favorite. Even though I love the live action Jokers, this feels like quintessential Joker. He's creepy, he's funny, he has the best laugh, and of course you have the great Kevin Conroy as our Batman, Bruce Wayne, may he rest in peace. Kevin Conroy's voice performance as Batman was always excellent. He was tough, he was brooding, but he also had a sense of humor, he was charming, he had a very charismatic side. Kevin Conroy didn't just give Batman that classic Batman persona that one reads in the comics, but he also infused the character with real depth and emotion, something that, when done right, especially in animation, can be pretty impressive. So in this movie, the world's greatest detective is on the trail of a new badass in Gotham City that kills mob bosses off one at a time, and in gruesome fashion with a blade for a hand, has a cloak and a mask, disappears and reappears in smoke, kind of like Batman. Meanwhile, somebody from Bruce Wayne's past, an old flame, Andrea Beaumont, shows up back in the city, and when Bruce sees her, he goes into flashback mode, where we see how they first met, how they fell in love, and we also see in those flashbacks the origin of how he put on the cape and cowl in the first place. It's really a precursor to Batman Begins. Basic black mask, a black outfit, and he goes out to see how he does in his first night of fighting crime. It's really awesome scene. Now, if you watch and are a fan of Batman, the animated series, then you already know that there's no blood in that show. But one thing that I really love about this movie is they decided to add a little blood to the world when we have a little bit of violence every now and then. Not a blood fest, but it does show that when characters get hurt, they might bleed a little bit. Happens very early in the film where we see a character have a little bit on their chin, which the first time I saw in the theater back in the day as a 10-year-old, I got excited about. Towards the end of the second act, there is a great sequence where Batman is running for his life from the police because a character in the film, Arthur Reeves, played by Art Faulkner, who also was the sleazebag Ellis in Die Hard, makes a great sleazebag in this movie too. In this, he's a scummy city councilman that has the cops, except Commissioner Gordon, convinced that Batman is guilty of these mob murders. And so there's this awesome, excellent sequence where Batman is jumping from rooftop to rooftop as the cops are flat out just trying to kill him, trying to shoot at him from a helicopter. He's swinging around, gets to a construction site, they sick the SWAT team on him. Actually, the more I talk about it, the more I kind of realize that a lot of things in this movie are the seeds that would grow into the mighty oak that would eventually become the Dark Knight trilogy. We get some classic Batman action with little nods to the live action movies every now and then, like Batman crashing through glass or Batman in the Batwing coming down, swooping through the sky. We also have a really good story in terms of the mystery. There is a nice amount of Batman doing some detective work in this movie, something that as a Batman fan you want to see. Now, every Batman film has its flaws. Some of them might feel perfect, some might even look perfect, but you can still spot flaws in many of these films. As much as I love the Dark Knight trilogy or the Batman or Batman from '89, I can have little issues here and there with every one of those movies, even though I love them all. But with this one, there isn't much to take apart. You know, it's pretty damn solid, except for one little nitpick I have, which is a scene where they're in the Batcave and Alfred says something to Batman as he's about to leave. He gets in the Batmobile and he says something that implies that he knows what he's going to do, and he says something like, "You think you know everything about me, don't you?" And Alfred says back to him, Well, I diapered your bottom, I bloody well ought to, sir. And like a little kid, says one of the most un-Batman lines that I've ever heard Kevin Conroy say in any Batman show or Batman animated movie. Well, you're wrong. And he shuts the door to the Batmobile and speeds off. Reminds me of the kind of behavior that we got from Chris O'Donnell, in his Robin portrayal, or that moment in The Batman that never sits right with me when Robert Pattinson's Batman says, "You're not my father, Alfred. Alfred, you're not my father." That kind of shit never sits right with me. And so that, well, you're wrong moment just, yeah, it's like the one time I look at a scene in this movie and I go, nah, didn't have to be there. And the last few things I got to bring up is the cinematography and the music. In terms of the visuals, this feels very cinematic. I remember seeing in the theater being blown away by some of the shots and what they did with certain action sequences. And the series on TV did a lot of the same thing, trying to make those episodes feel like little mini movies. But this feels like a full-on epic animated Batman movie. And the music from Shirley Walker, oh my god, so perfect. This choir singing to the music, and I don't know what language, it sounds like Latin, but I don't honestly know what language they're singing, but it's a real nice touch to the music as we hear it play, and we see these buildings sweep by us one after another as we get the scale of the city in what kind of looks like a bit of early CGI in that opening sequence as well. And then you have the very final frame, the last shot of the movie. It's just a great little detail and a nice little cherry on top. As the movie comes to a close, we see Batman jump off of a building with his rope as he swings off the building, and he gets closer to the frame, and for a second, as he's swinging towards us, he just kind of turns his head and looks at us. That's obviously a nod to Richard Donner's Superman film from 1978 with Christopher Reeve flying towards the camera and looking at us and smiling right before he flies away. And so, yeah, so many great things about this movie. If you're a Batman fan, if you're a fan of the animated shows or any Batman-related material, you gotta see this movie. I think you can find it on Max. Batman, Mask of the Phantasm from 1993. This animated classic gets 4 stars from me. I do have this movie because I happen to have the animated series on Blu-ray. And cool thing about this animated series, it comes with a couple of movies as well. These have every episode that ran from 1992 to 1997, including when they changed the name of the show from Batman the Animated Series to The Adventures of Batman and Robin, and then they retooled the name again, I think, in the late 90s, right before the show went off the air, where they changed up the animation, looked a little bit different, but still in the same world with the same people doing the voices. And if you look inside, you have a couple of movies. I've always liked the poster of this movie. I think it's actually pretty cool that they put it right on the disc, and a nice little companion movie to go with it. We got the sequel, Batman Sub-Zero. Went straight to video, wasn't theatrically released, but still actually a good movie, and so I think I will go into that one sometime in the near future. Thank you all very much for watching this classic movie review. I always appreciate it. If you're into the classics, if you're into movies, if you're into this kind of thing, subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications on more movie reviews from me coming out very soon. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for your support. I always appreciate it. Please don't forget to comment, share, like, always helps me out. And just thank you for watching. Appreciate you. Take care of each other. Peace out. God bless.